staying in your own lane and letting the crazies go by. How many of you have ever had one of those experiences where you had one of those days where it was just crazy? Huh? Say every day, okay? It's just crazy. I had a recent experience talking to some communications managers, and they were having all of these challenges. And one of the big challenges that they had were the crazies were just attacking them from every angle. And I says, well, just stay in your own lane. So they stayed in their lane, and that worked for a while, and then the crazies found out where their lane was. And so they says, we're in our own lane. What do we do now? Can somebody give me a little cup of water, please, out the water thing there? Thank you, I appreciate it. It says, what do you do when they start getting, how many of you ever seen something really big gaining on you fast in your rearview mirror? Huh? How many of you ever seen something coming toward you and it was over the double yellow lines and you go, oh my God, huh? Every day. You must live in Dallas or Houston. Thank you, sir. What's the best thing to do when you see something gaining on you? Like that, huh? Get out of the way. You pull over to the side of the road and let the crazies go by. What happened with these communications managers, tell me the first name again, is Tammy. Tammy. I wanted to say Peggy, but that's the Peggy back there. Tammy, I told these communications managers, I says, look, you're getting ready to go to this meeting. You know you're under attack. And I says, so what have you prepared for them? And so they went through all the stuff, and they kept talking about what the crazies were talking about. I said, I don't care about what the crazies talking about. Tammy, tell me, what have you done? I says, is this the best you can do? And it says, well, you know, we could look at it like, I said, well, don't go away and come back when you got something better. And so they went away. So they prepared their reports that they needed to prepare for the meetings that they were going to go to when the executioner was going to drop the axe on them. And so I went over the reports with them, and went over the reports with them, and went over the reports with them. Miguel, they were sick and tired of me, okay? They went to the meeting. I said, I have one instruction for you when you go to the meeting. What's that? I said, keep your mouth shut. I'm drawing on my Christian experience, okay? I said, keep your mouth shut. Why did I tell them to keep their mouth shut? I says, when they ask you a specific question, you now know this report well enough that you can refer them to chapter and verse in the report. When they ask the question, just refer to the answer in the report. They went to the meeting. The meeting lasted 2.5 hours without a break. Don't that sound like a fun meeting, Lenny? Oh, God. A government meeting at that. They walked out of the room. Other than saying that's on page 27 in the third paragraph, oh, that's in section 1. They never said a word except they sat in the meeting for 2.5 hours, Peggy, and they smiled and pointed to people that were raising the stink about their work to the product they had produced for the meeting. When the people who were the arbitrators of the meeting got through, they says, they got everything that they want, and you get nothing. They left the meeting. I got a phone call from one of the attorneys. The attorney says, you would not believe how they perform. He says, they sat in the meeting and they didn't say anything except referencing the document. And the officer gave them everything they asked for. Prior preparation prevents poor performance. Many of you have heard that in management meetings and trainings before. Prior preparation prevents poor performance. Too many times we hear about something like this law, and we listen to what the soundbite on the news says about it, and what our girlfriends, our boyfriends say about it when we playing some golf or drinking at the social event, but we never check it out ourselves. We never do the prior preparation to find out how it's going to affect our performance. You have management situations already that you know that you're guilty of, that you've done that on yourselves. And you've known that you've been in situations as managers and leaders and supervisors where your staff and other people's staff have attempted to do it to you. And guess what? Monday, when you're back at the office, the game starts all over again. It's never going to go away. So the way you make it so that it doesn't stick to you is that you make sure that your prior preparation and maybe you should start thinking about looking at something. How many of y'all flew into Oklahoma City? Anybody fly in? A few of you flew in from different places. You know, it's amazing what a sense of calm and peace when it's not stormy weather that we can get when we're at 30, 35,000 feet. We look down at the world from an aircraft and we look at how small and insignificant everything is that when we were walking on the ground looked like this great big monstrous problem. And there's this great sense of peace. As managers, leaders, and administrators, maybe, just maybe, some of the things that we need to be doing are viewing things from a higher altitude. The reason that I ask you bigger questions about Social Security Administration is not for me to say that I'm smart and you're not. That's not the intent. The intent is to say that as managers and leaders and administrators, you need to have a bigger perspective than what's on Outlook on your computers, or what's on those systems, or what's in those stacks of reports. Because if you're making decisions from that level, you're just a manager, you're not an American. You're not considering what the whole of your actions are when you're making those decisions. Because remember, there was nothing that you signed when you started working for the federal government that said that you had to give up your citizenship to work for the federal government.